The impact of religion and Sufism on arts in Sudan. Calligraphy, paintings, archaeology, and music. An introduction. The audience we meet you today in a new series of episodes dedicated to exploring the influence of religion and Sufism on arts in Sudan. For centuries, the Sudanese cultural consciousness has been deeply imbued with the profound religious spirit and strong Sufi presence that has left its mark on various forms of creative expression. Undoubtedly, religious and Sufi expression in the arts reflect the manifestation of divine beauty, the beauty through which the universe was created. This beauty reveals itself in the harmony and balance of existence and in humanity's ability to draw inspiration from these meanings and transform them into vibrant artistic forms. Based on this profound vision that connects religion, Sufism, and spirituality on the one hand with the arts and aesthetics on the other, I'm so delighted the audience, the viewers and guests, to take you on a reflective journey through the realms of Sudanese creativity. Together, we will trace the presence of this Sufi spirit in the works of Sudanese artists and creators. We will explore its manifestations in the aesthetics of Arabic calligraphy, in painting and visual arts, in archaeology, as well as in music and devotional chanting, where melodies intertwine with remembrance and art becomes a means of expressing spiritual longing and the search for meaning. So, dear audience, it is my great pleasure once again to welcome you to this new episodes, to this new series of episodes in which we try together to travel through times, through history, to seek the influence, the impact of religion and Sufism on arts in Sudan. And for this, stay with us on this journey as we seek to illuminate an important dimension of Sudanese cultural identity, where art meets faith and where beauty embraces the spirit in the vast horizons of creativity. To the audience, this is our first encounter in our way to present, to introduce, to seek and to trace the influence of religion, of Sufism on Sudanese arts, with a special reference to calligraphy, paintings, archaeology, and music. But before going further in our first introductory episode, here just I would like to share these points in which we try in the first place to see the situation of Sufism from arts, to see religion from arts. And here I would like to start the relationship between religion, Sufism, and the arts, such as calligraphy, painting, music, and archaeology, has been a central feature of Islamic civilization. Rather than being separate domains, these forms often function together as expressions of spiritual experience, devotion, and metaphysical reflection. In Islamic thought, art is often understood as a manifestation of divine harmony and order. The Quran frequently calls attention to beauty in creation and encourages contemplation of the science of God. Because of this, Islamic art tends to emphasize symbolism, abstraction, and harmony rather than direct representation. Sufism, the mystical dimension of Islam, views art as a bridge to the divine, transforming creative expression into spiritual practice. It profoundly influences Islamic art through themes of divine beauty, love, and unity, manifesting in poetry, music, calligraphy, architecture, and dance to evoke ecstatic states and symbolize inner realities. The essence of art is the ability to create different forms of happiness, either in the art of literature, music, dancing, visual arts, or even drama. Hence, arises the question, what is beauty, or what are the aesthetics values? When sharing the significance of Sufism and the arts, it is important to emphasize how this deeply aesthetic orientation of Islamic culture is rooted in the Quran itself, which express ethical and metaphysical principles with rhythm and rhyme. This divine beautification of the world would be emulated by Muslims, for whom the word was central to artistic expression. The Quranic word then was beautified orally in recitation and visually in architecture, calligraphy, and crafts. This beautiful expression of the word further functioned to inspire divine remembrance as the linguistic science of God surrounded Muslim daily living. For many Sufis, then, an artistic expression like poetry, architecture, and calligraphy was a contemplative discipline, the practice of which was a form of dhikr, the art of remembering the divine. The German scholar and thinker Anne-Marie Schimmel wrote extensively about the deep relationship between Sufism and the arts. In her works, especially Mystical Dimensions of Islam and Deciphering the Science of God, she explains that artistic expression in Islamic civilization often functions as a spiritual language through which the mystic perceives divine beauty. The main ideas in Schimmel's interpretation of the relationship between Sufism and the arts, beauty as a reflection of the divine, can be taken in these points. Schimmel emphasizes that for the Sufi, all beauty in the world reflects the beauty of God. She writes that the mystic sees in created beauty a sign pointing to the eternal source of beauty. Thus, art becomes a symbolic language of divine love. The Sufi artist does not merely imitate nature, but tries to express the hidden spiritual reality behind appearances. So, the audience, this is our introductory episode in which we try, as I told, to seek, to trace the influence, the impact of religion and Sufism on Sudanese artistic production, with a special reference to calligraphy, paintings, archaeology, and music. So we have these points. Further, I would like to provide more points about the relationship between Islamic teachings, between Islam, other religion, and Sufism towards art. So here we have artistic forms influenced by religion and Sufism. Calligraphy. Islamic calligraphy is often considered the highest art form in Islamic culture because it visually represents the sacred word of Quran. So if we have taken the forms that we try to trace, in which the artists have been influenced by religion and Sufism, here we would like to start with calligraphy. And as I have pointed out here, calligraphy, Islamic calligraphy in particular, is often considered the highest art form in Islamic culture, because it visually represents the sacred word of the Quran. Sufi thinkers often interpret calligraphy symbolically. For example, here we have the letters, and as we have calligraphy, that means we are going to use letters. So the letters represent cosmic realities, while the dot beneath the Arabic letter, for instance, Ba, was interpreted by mystics as the origin of knowledge. And this is, by the way, the interpretation of some Sufi scholars to the dot that we found in the word Bismillah, that is in Arabic. So to them, to those scholars, Ba, that is the first letter, is the source of creation, that every created thing has been come into being by Ba, B, that is B kana ma kana wa B yakunu ma yakun. This is, by the way, these parts of the interpretation that we come across in Sufi language, in Sufi culture, and at the very same time it has been attributed to Imam Ali, the son-in-law of the Prophet Muhammad and the fourth Caliph. So the manifestation of calligraphy, we found calligraphy appears in mosques, in manuscripts and devotional objects. According to Schimmel and Mary Schimmel, to her, Arabic calligraphy is the highest form of Islamic art because it is directly linked to the Quranic word. So in Sufism, letters are not just visual forms, but symbols filled with spiritual meaning. Writing Quranic verses becomes a contemplative practice, and the act of writing itself may be function as a spiritual exercise on the mystical path. paintings. So painting is another form of art that influence with religion and Sufism. And as I told, once again, I would like to remind that I'm presenting introductory episode, our introductory episode, through which we would like just to introduce the main elements, the main forms of arts that we try to introduce, we try to present, taken from the Sudanese setting. So here we have painting. Although figure representation was debated in Islamic societies, painting developed particularly in Persian and Ottoman miniature traditions. These works often depict mystical stories or Sufi allegories. For instance, scenes inspired by the allegorical poem The Conference of the Poets visually portray the soul's journey toward divine truth. So tracing the Islamic culture, the Islamic civilization, we found that Islamic painters have been influenced by this great civilization, putting in consideration that Islamic civilization has its own features and characteristics. Furthermore, it has its own beauty, and because of this, we found Islamic painters, whether they are Sufis or not Sufis, greatly have been influenced by this sort of culture, sort of civilization. So once again, what I would like to do is just to share the Sudanese experience in this regard, as we are going to take in our coming episodes. Music and spiritual practice, another forms of arts that we found throughout the existence and the history of Islamic civilization. We found the speech on music taken a point that music is part of the Islamic civilization. And in this concern, music plays a key role in many Sufi practices, especially rituals designed to awaken spiritual consciousness. So if I have taken music in this concern, if you have taken here the music as a form of art, we would like to tell that the speech on audition, that is sama or hearing, is part of the Islamic civilization, is part of the Islamic teachings, is part of the Islamic Sufi teachings itself. And this concern, while Sufis and scholars have put their own condition to audition itself, that is because audition is something that is practiced and it is part of our religion. And in this concern, audition is there on the recitation of the Holy Quran, is there in poetic songs and singing. And in this concern, if you have taken Sudanese setting, here we have pre-singers and chanters. So pre-singers and chanters, as I have introduced in so many numerous episodes, have played greatest role, a magnificent role, and the spread of the Prophet Sira, the dissemination of the Prophet Sira, and it is concerned here, praise singers and chanters in Sudan represent that side of individuals, of groups that used to travel from village to village in the past time, disseminating the Prophet Sira, as I told. So from outside the Sudanese settings, here we have Qawwali, and so very devotional musicians spread out in South Asia. More particularly, if you have taken India or if you have taken Pakistan, we find such example. And then we have the whirling ceremony and the Mevilivi order that attributed to Mayamasa Jalaluddin al-Rumi. So music accompanies poetry about divine love and longing. Another form of arts influenced by religion and Sufism is architecture. So Islamic architecture also reflects spiritual symbolism, and we find this in mosques, madrasas, and Sufi lodges. Hangakas or zawiyas often embody sacred geometry and cosmological meaning. A famous example is the Alhambra in Spain, where geometry, calligraphy, and light combine to create a contemplative environment. So, as you listen, the audience, this is 4 examples that we try to focus on while we try furthermore to introduce the influence, the impact of Sudanese artists with Islamic religion and Sufism. To make a summary for these points, I would like to tell religion provides the theological foundation, while Sufism offers the experiential and mystical dimension, and the arts function as symbolic languages that express spiritual realities. And according to Anne-Marie Schimmel, Sufi-inspired art is not merely aesthetic, it is a spiritual path. And here we have her own views on calligraphy. To her, calligraphy is the path to contemplation of the divine word. Music and poetry taken to awakening a mystical love, while architecture and geometry visualizing unity and infinity. All these arts express the Sufi convention that beauty is the sign pointing to God. However, the audience, since I have presented these introductory points to the relationship, to the perspective, the view of Islamic religion, of Sufism, to the forms of arts, that is calligraphy, architecture, music, and paintings, I would like to take you to the Sudanese experience. So, following this brief introduction to the relationship between religion, Sufism, and the arts, it is important to highlight a number of exceptional renowned Sudanese artists whose works reflect the profound influence of Islamic and Sufi spiritual traditions. So the audience here, just I would like to point out to the Sudanese experience, the Sudanese setting, as I have told. And I would like to take some examples of Sudanese artists represent this diversity of artistic forms. So these artists have drawn upon the rich symbolic and philosophical heritage of Islam and Sufism to shape distinctive visual expressions that resonate with the spiritual meaning and cultural identity. Among the most prominent figures in this regard, here we have Osman Wagi Allah, Ibrahim al-Salahi, Ahmed Muhammad Shibrin, Ahmed Abdel Al, Rashid Diab, and then we have Asim Qurashi. So what I would like to do, the audience, is to take these figures represent diversity of the Sudanese artistic forms, and each one will be handled in a separate episode. Their artistic contributions stand as the compelling examples of how Islamic aesthetics and Sufi spirituality have inspired Sudanese visual culture, shaping a unique artistic language that bridges tradition, spirituality, and modern artistic expression. The voting and presenting and introducing each one of those figures in separate episode. Here just I would like to share parts of their remarks, parts of their views towards their influence with Islamic teachings and Sufism, each one in his own discipline and domain. For example, if you have taken the acclaimed international Sudanese painter Ibrahim al-Salahi, we found he spoke about the impact of Sufism in his artistic journey and on the Sufism touch, which has appeared in several of his works. And here just I would like to quote him. From ancient artistically, Sufism is deep-rooted, and it is one of the most factors that influence my artistic works. So this is just the view of the renowned Sudanese internationally painter Ibrahim al-Salahi. He's speaking about his influence with Sufism in his writings. And then I would like to share another point, another view, and this time comes from the late renowned Sudanese painter Professor Ahmed Abdel Al. So Ahmed Abdel Al said the fiber of the relationship between the Islamic arts and Sufism, and he thought of Sufism for its being aesthetic expression of the Islamic religion. Thus, the experience moves according to that till it becomes clear in his description entitled The Aesthetical Fundamentals in Islam, a study on the thought of Sheikh Muhyiddin ibn Arabi. The artist says on the tongue of Ibn Arabi, each image in the universe is a mirror that carries a relatively considerable amount of absolute aestheticism. This absolute aestheticism, an image variation, no way for it is comprehension nor tasting, only via spiritual effort. In the normal daily experience, we experience with the encounter of aestheticism, but there is an amount of spiritual struggle for the promotion of the human ability for picking up whatever aesthetic on the sight level and cognition level. And here, the aesthetical way extends so accurately, for it is possible to match between the universe images from the side of meaning and form. Still here, I'm quoting the late Professor Ahmed Abdul. It comes to be clear to me that the Islamic mysticism alone is making the statusism in Islam. I mean by this that tasawwuf of the grand founders, imams, of those who achieve actualization with their saying and thoughts, and this at basis for the unity sentiments, thought, saying, and deed. And this only came as the Sufi establishes aestheticism on the living structure in the human. Verily, Sufism is the art of religiosity, with the consideration that the art is the over transcendence of the familiar of saying the life, for reaching the realities of the existence that lead to the perfect closeness to the Maker. May His glory be glorified. The audience, I would like to reminding you that we are in our first introductory episode, seeking behind the influence, the impact of Sufism and religion on arts and artistics production in Sudan. So here I would like to share another view, since I'm presenting Sudanese artists, some of the Sudanese artists that will be our focus in our coming episodes. Just I'm trying to share their views toward their influence, toward the impact of Islamic teaching, Islamic religion, as well as Sufism in Sudanese arts. So the Sudanese painter, printmaker, educator, and cultural pioneer, Rashid Diab, in this concern said, in Sudan, everyone has an element of Sufism in his life. You know, there is something unifying you with God. You are part of God. We say, inshallah, everything depends on God. We have good health and we can work. If we gain or lose something, this part of life, we have to accept it. Meanwhile, the Sudanese musician Asim Qurashi stands as an example of a Sufi musician that influenced greatly with the melodies of praise singing, madih, and chanting in Sudan. And he is an example of a Sudanese that have gained great reputation worldwide based on the Sufi heritage. And in this concern, I would like to share his views in this regard. According to him, Sufism is a mindset that I'm in when I am playing music, elevating towards God, and thus elevating my existence, explained Qurashi. According to him, Qasim Qurashi, music is a ladder taking him to the highest level of spirituality. An acclaimed Sufi musician who was born in Sudan, Asim's music brings together folk music from many tribes of Sudan with sacred Sufi melodies and chants. Moreover, the audience, one of the art forms that have been influenced by religion, by Sufism, is there in archaeology. So the most manifestation of the influence and the impact of religion and Sufism in the archaeology in Sudan is the scattering of dome tombs, gubbas, across the country. These gubbas or dome tombs are not merely the centers of innumerable folk cults. Rather, they are also legitimate historical monument on the men who first brought knowledge of Islamic faith into the country. Meanwhile, one of the most prominent and current sources in the field of archaeology is Professor Intisar Sayrun. So Intisar Sayrun, in her MA thesis, Islamic Dome Tomb of Central Sudan, selected 15 dome tombs. These dome tombs are distinguished in 3 areas: Khartoum, Alafun, and Abu Haraz. So Intisar argues the gubbas present an architectural legacy whereby archaeology can trace origin and influences relative to earlier periods. This helps in classifying the continuity and persistence of cultures in Sudan. It shows pagan, Christian, and Islamic elements blended to the benefit of Islam. In his introduction to the book, The Dome Tombs and Shrines in Sudan, the Sudanese scholar, the late Sharif Qasim, stated that the gubbas in Sudan are not merely a building, rather they are the lightning signs till the efforts that had been led by the earliest Sufi men on the whole country. In his own words, I quote, "They are not a mere building nor historical archaeology, but they are lightning signs for what men have given their lives and existence for the service of Allah's religion and its consolidation across the widest and longitude of the land. And by this, they were the long golden episode. They were the long golden episode extended since the beginning of the Risala to include all the parts of Islamic world." The audience, as I have stated shortly, this is our first encounter in our series of episodes that we have devoted to introduce the impact, the influence of religion and Sufism on arts forms in Sudan. And this is an introductory episode in which I have taken the stance, the position, as well as the existence of these art forms represented in calligraphy, painting, archaeology, and music. Traces of these art forms have been taken as part of the Islamic civilization. And furthermore, I stated that what is behind this introduction or this series of introduction that will be presented is just to take the Sudanese experience in this field. And I have furthermore pointed out to the idea that some representatives, each figure in his own field will be taken as an example. For example, as I have told that Ahmed Abdel Al ريم الصلاحي, عثمان وقع الله, Ahmed Muhammad Shibrin, and then we have Rashid Diab, and finally we have Asim Qureshi will be taken as an example, each in his own field and domain. So before to wrap up here, I guess I would like to point out to the sources that I have consulted to introduce this introductory episode. The Impact of Sufism on Arts in Sudan, published book 2024, Musawarat by Jalil Abdullah Saleh. And then we have Searching for Sufism in Art, Music and Dreams by Reverend Gina Rose Halprin, published article on July 2008. Chaplain C Institute. And then we have Anne-Marie Schimmel, Mystical Dimension of Islam, Chapel Hill, University of North Carolina, Press 1975. Then we have Karen Dabroska, artist Rashid Diab's self-style mission to revive Sudanese culture, published in Arab Weekly on 7 of January 2018. And then we have Abdurrahman ود الكبيدة, أثر التصوف في تكوين الشخصية السودانية, مدارات, published on Khartoum 2013. And then we have Sudan Now Magazine.net, an article on Sudanese arts. Furthermore, we have here Ali Abdaw, Music for Peace, UNESCO, Khartoum, Sudan, published on September 23, 2006. And then we have Salah Umar al-Siddiq, The Story of Dom Toms of Eastern Sudan from Past to Present, دراسات أفريقية, Journal, Periodical, issue number 3 شوال 1424. The article, He whistles Mudarat, but can Asim Qureshi bring peace to Sudan? Published article by Yusra al-Baqir, special for CNN, published on Thursday, October 29, 2015. By this, the audience, I came to the end of the episode. Till seeing you in our next episode. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.